Hello, everyone. I'm Aditi Gupta, and I'd like to start by thanking each one of you for being here today, taking out the time to have this discussion with us. And I think we have about 30 minutes that we are going to be here. The reason why we are here is to gather your opinions and insights on exploring the synergy of location-based marketing. Location data has become a very important tool for marketers these days, and from what I understand, location-based marketing is basically using data from the mobile devices of users to know what their current or past locations are, and then sending them tailor-made offers to entice them. And for example, if I'm going to a coffee shop and they would know that I am around it, and suddenly I'll get an offer on my mobile. And so we're all somewhere a part of this ecosystem, but we never really pay attention to how is this happening. So let's dive deep into this. And my first question is, how does location-based marketing allow your brand to have a highly personalized and targeted customer experience? And I would also request each one of you to share an example of a successful campaign where gathering location data has resulted in a more effective and relevant interaction with customers. So if I start with you, Sugosh.
Hi, thanks Aditi. I'm audible, hello? Yeah. To just give a background, when I got this topic, right, I had to speak on this, I was very excited because one, this is something we can actually talk a lot about, and also at the same time, we don't know what to talk about, because in terms of results and metrics and the situation we all face as digital marketers, the narrower it gets, the targeting, the more challenging the outcome becomes for us to deliver. With location marketing, to how it happens, from my understanding, from what I've done so far, is largely through the IP address that's mapped to your mobile devices, through location targeting when you're on your location setting on your mobile, through Wi-Fi, through beacon targeting. These are some of the journey points, plus a user browsing behavior as to how which area you normally browse, what are the kind of searches you do. So it's largely a mix of all these things from what I understand, where advertisers gather data in terms of how to target the consumers. In terms of what has worked for us or how it is, so for me, it's always been a double-edged sword in terms of how much I can invest in location marketing. So recently, we had this challenge of driving traffic footfalls to a certain store. And actually, me and Rathin actually are speaking on this backstage as well, that though online is the way to go and is supposed to be location marketing, but the channel that works the best are the offline surround effect that drives maximum footfalls or maximum audience, relevant audience to your store. So we had this challenge of getting people into a Malad store in Orbit Mall. So with digital technologies and the vendors that are there, there's always a big challenge in terms of transparency and measurement, right? Many of them actually can't comment on how the traffic is going to go, what kind of targeting they're going to do, and there's going to be massive spillage. So we decided to go an offline route where we reached out to societies in a 5-kilometer radius, reached out to women in that area, people who own WhatsApp groups, because one thing we realized, a lot of WhatsApp groups, I mean, any woman or is normally a mother, she's part of multiple WhatsApp groups. She's my audience, right? So how do I get in touch with her? Second thing, we also targeted newspaper outlets to newspaper to communicate a certain offer. I think the most important point, the common point that we ensure that it's there, that's an offer which is valid only for the particular store. So this way, we ran for this campaign for 3 or 4 months, only targeting people around that area, more through an offline channel, and we saw a good amount of traffic coming in. Obviously, conversion didn't take an effect because we wanted people to come and explore the experience in the store first. But we managed to get new custom audience data, which we could fit into a customer data platform and then retarget them. So location marketing, from what my understanding is, largely it's part of a journey. It's a starting point of a journey to acquire new consumers and customers, and then take it from there. So yeah, that's been my experience so far. And yeah.
Thank you, Sugosh. Prerna, would you like to add?
Thank you so much. So for me, I think any of these digital tools which are coming in and location-based marketing, geo-targeting as one of those new features that we have, is basically to solve your traditional marketing problem. And your traditional marketing problem will really depend on your business objective. So now a lot of us are from different industries, and absolutely for your tactical objectives, location-based marketing works wonderful. You want to drive traffic to your showroom, you want to promote a certain offer, etc., etc. but how a brand which sells a bigger ticket item like Tata Motors, or there's a larger capital investment, looks at it from a strategic point of view is how it will differentiate between industries. So for me, I may want to promote a certain offer during Diwali, let's say, in a particular region, or we were just talking about how during Onam I would maybe bombard a certain region in terms of using their competition showroom, hyperlocal pin codes to target my competition customer, maybe give an extra offer with the dealer, etc., etc. But that is just the tactical part. We also have larger business objectives. Coming from international business, we have to understand that a market leader here may not be a market, may be a very big challenger, in fact, in another market. And expanding your network in a foreign land, it's not possible, especially due to the capital investments there that are involved there and the sheer timeline that is involved there. So these kind of location-based tools helps you with visibility. Now, it may not give me an ROI, and we were talking about how today a marketing team is going to, at the end of the month, right, your boss is going to ask, the marketing head is going to ask, that much money you put into hyperlocal and all those pin codes and all those remarketing extra schemes, etc. Where's the result? You cannot have just a result-oriented approach when it comes to these things. I think these tools will also help you create visibility in places where you cannot open a showroom. So if I'm in Dubai, which is a very, very heavily competitive markets with European, German, Japanese, you talk about the brand and then they have it. I cannot open a very lavish showroom in the middle of Dubai city, right? But what I can do is the 1,000 people that are coming to that showroom, I can at least try and target and aim for 100. And maybe if I try for 100, I'll get 10. But that kind of attention from 10 people is a huge ROI for me, right? So I think when it comes to location-based marketing or geo-targeting or hyperlocal marketing, we really need to understand different places that it will fit into your larger business strategy and your business objective for the year. So if we can use this strategy from a longer scene or with a bigger picture, I think it will help us get better results. And we need to explain to people that not everything will drive with ROI. We will have to set our key responsive matrix. So if it is a tactical ad, there will be an ROI, how much sales, how much footfall, etc. But if it's a different business objective altogether, maybe the same ROI key factors will not come into picture. And that's the clarity that as marketers we need to bring in the organization. So that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Prerna. And I am going to talk about ROI much later also, once again. So, Rathin.
So, I come from the financial services industry, and in insurance, it's a long-term product. Right? So, acquiring the customer is just a phase one. Ideally, you want to keep him for 10 years, 20 years, because that's when you're going to realize the full lifetime value. So, we use a whole bunch of parameters to decide marketing on both the acquisition front and the engagement front, right? So let me give you 2-3 examples in which location-based marketing or locations becomes a key priority. So one is, in the case of insurance, there is return and there's also risk. And there are certain locations which are higher risk than the others, right? So for example, if you are insuring home insurance, and if you're doing it somewhere in the mountains, right? Or in areas which are earthquake zones, they are higher kind of, the higher probabilities of risk. So for the same product, you would actually have a differential pricing. If you take the example of an automobile, of a motor or a car, if there's a vehicle which is driving within the city, typically there is a limit to the speed at which it drives, just because of the traffic. It will drive at 40, 50 kilometers, right? And even if there's an accident, the damage will be of a certain value, right? The moment that car steps out and starts going onto a highway or an expressway, the potential damage rises multifold. If you see the number of deaths which happen outside, that again, happens more on expressways rather than in cities. So knowing whether a car or a vehicle is largely, traveling within the city or is traveling multi-city, again is one of these location-based factors which impacts pricing. So one is it can be used in marketing, but I think it has even greater and deeper implications from a business, from an ROI, from an analytics point of view. From our point of view, again, like I said, one part is acquiring the customers. And again, in the financial services industry, most of the leaders essentially, are omni-channel. Because if you're only digital, you will only attract a certain type or a certain tribe of customers. So again, we use location-based marketing for acquisition, and there, as we were discussing, offline marketing sometimes is cheaper just because cost of, you know, using labor, targeting certain corporates, targeting certain cohorts, targeting societies is actually cheaper in the offline world than doing geofencing and so on. And we have done actually campaigns of geofencing, let's say a BKC, Nariman Point, which seem on paper to be, you know, high value areas. But they have great challenges in terms of scalability. Because I want a certain volume of acquisition, a certain cost of acquisition. I want that customer to be also, if the cost is higher, to actually, you know, be of a higher value. But we don't really find that sweet spot there. The other piece in which we kind of use location-based marketing actually is around engagement. So, like I said, once a guy takes a health insurance policy, again for an example, we would like that guy to, you know, renew the policy. So we would periodically serve up, you know, that these are the places you can go for a, you know, medical checkup. Depending on the value of the policy, we offer free or subsidized medical checkups, and you would like to, you know, get him at least aware of what are the nearby hospitals. So that is one part. Similarly, the more healthier the guy, the more active the guy, the customer rather, you know, the chances of him really falling ill and us having to pay out is, you know, lower. So we actually have a vested interest in the guy being healthy. So we are actually experimenting with actually giving him, you know, subsidized gym memberships, online training stuff. And we've begun this pilot and we're taking a few locations to see what is the adoption, where it works out, what does it kind of, you know, what is the fallout on, let's say, the renewal rate and so on. So these are some of the examples that I'm doing. So to summarize, I think acquisition is one part, but even more important, I think retention, analytics, upsell, cross-sell, that's where a lot of value lies in location-based marketing.
Thank you, Rathin. This actually brings me to the next question. My next question was about the challenges and what factors are kept in mind while considering like what location you're going to choose. And also, since Prerna, you are into regional marketing, and what role does location-based marketing play in regional marketing as well? So I'd like to start this with you.
Absolutely. So, like I was mentioning earlier, you have to identify what your objective is for the business, right? And that's when you use location-based marketing. The challenge would really come, like I'd again sort of mentioned, with the ROI. It's very difficult to introduce something and start expecting ROIs the very next month. I remember the first time we started digital lead generation in the international markets. And again, you know, as India, we would think that we are still a developing nation, but of course, I'm sure a lot of us know that we are developed. So developed than so many nations in terms of internet penetration, the maturity of digital data usage, the way we consume data digitally. I mean, I don't know. The guy in the green shirt, I'm so sorry, in the second table, have your parents ever bought anything online? Yes? Yes, right? So that's the transformation that has happened in India. But if you go outside to Bangladesh, and I'm so sorry if anybody is from Bangladesh, their parents wouldn't, in all probability, wouldn't have bought anything. So that's the kind of maturity. And 10 years ago, mom would not buy that thing online, right? Never. So we've gone on to trust the digital medium, and that's why we have to understand the journey of the basic citizen or of the location that you're trying to do this in. If you're going to do this in Dubai, like I said, it's going to be impactful because of the visibility. But now if you're trying to land in somewhere where there's already a lot of competition and you have a lot of brand trust, that's where you imply it from a more tactical basis. So what I would do is I would generally take up, we were talking about network some time back, and Philippines is a really huge market for smaller trucks. And there are so many Chinese brands and they are with big pockets. So you can imagine entire Philippines covered with 30 sales touch points. Whereas an Indian brand, whether it's a Tata or a Mahindra, they would have single-digit numbers. So there would be 8 or 9 showrooms maximum. A lot of them may be multi-brand retail showrooms as well. So how do you here target somebody and get yourself visible that at least you're available with a new offering or you are there as a brand? And this also helps create a more halo effect for the larger mother brand. So, for example, whether it is SBI General or Tata Motors or Grasim, if you trust the larger brand, you're often more experimentative or more forgiving for the final experience. And there will be a gap in experience all the time. But this kind of, you cannot, like he was saying, sometimes offline is more expensive, but sometimes online is more expensive, but sometimes offline is more expensive. If I'm introducing a new brand in South Africa, I cannot paint the whole town red. I just can't. I'm just trying to plan for an OH and it's 80 lakhs for 10 sites for 3 months. That is humongous budget. With that budget, I have launched an entire electric vehicle platform in Nepal. So you understand, I cannot deploy an offline key metric there, right? So then you need to use location-based marketing. But I would actually like to just come to a point which Rathin very nicely mentioned about using this data for future. So just like car is a big ticket item, and again, you don't do impulse purchases. So we're talking about items like real estate, cars, trucks, which have a longer timeline journey. How do you keep yourself engaged with the customer? So you remind them for services, great. But today the customer is super bored. Nothing against SBI General. I think if somebody's from Bajaj, they will know what I'm talking about. But the customer is bored with calls and reminders. He wants to be engaged on a very personalized level. And if anybody of you have a Tata SUV, and if you're part of Seoul SUV Owners United League community, you will realize that these kind of location-based marketing and hyper-local targeting tools help you to derive communities within the brand. And these communities will tomorrow help you not only generate referrals and a better sales channel, but also they will become a base customer field for your next upgrade platform. Every 4 years, every 5 years, you're coming up with a new platform altogether, new technology. So you use these communication-based technologies to connect with the customer on a daily basis. So if I know my customer is somebody who travels, he goes to office every day, but every 3 months there is a huge long travel which he's done to maybe a Leh, a Jaisalmer or something else, I can then pitch him stuff like that. So we have a whole, again, SUV lovers or motorheads would know that there's a tent which comes with your SUV sometimes, right? Now, it's an expensive accessory, it doesn't sell like that. And there are a lot of cheaper options in the market. But if I know my customer that he travels a lot and he spends these long drives, I can pitch that specific accessory to this customer. And now you would ask me, why would I want to focus so much on an accessory selling? I don't know if I'm supposed to share this or not, but the most profit giving vertical right now with Tata Motors is our spare parts division, right? So you never know what is going to generate revenue in your company. Sometimes you sell at a negative margin, but sometimes you get the bestest of margin out of the smallest of things. So I think it's very important to not just look at it as acquiring customer or making that conversion there and then. It may or may not happen, but how do you again implement it in your larger strategy for all your business problems, right? You can make communities within Mumbai. I can locate people in South Bombay who own a Tata Safari, create a community there, or send them messages which will motivate them to create a community, because everybody wants to be in a community today. Nobody has time for their long-term plans. Acha, Sunday drive ja rahi hai, let me take my car and go. That's how they want to behave, right? So this kind of location-based marketing will help me create a community, and I don't have to pay crores of money for a brand ambassador. Because trust me, go to TMBHP, you will see somebody raising a flag on a Tata Motors car, whether true or false. There are customers who are coming and saving me. I don't even respond to ORMs anymore, right? I'm not supposed to. They don't come to me anymore because my customer is responding to it. So I just think there's a big halo domino effect which happens with these things if used correctly. So yeah.
Prerna, Sugosh.
Thanks. Yeah, I think you spoke most of the points I wanted to speak.
Any other challenges that you feel?
Yeah, so I think, but the one major challenge that I've felt when it comes to such skewed targeting, right, location marketing, hyper-local marketing per se, is the biggest point is the cost, right? Because if I need to reach out to a certain sector of audience, if I need to reach out to an entire city or a west zone or north zone through a certain media, there's a proper funnel that I can build in. But if it comes to a store in Malad, or if it comes to my dealer outlet, say, previously in my paint organization, we used to target dealers. That I want people to go to the dealer outlet, I want people to go to a signature shop. In Bandra, there's a huge amount of cost, because not only I'm paying for the overheads as a marketer or as a business owner, I also need to get revenues to justify the overheads I'm paying. And for that, there's huge amount of pressure that comes on the marketing team, but yeah, traffic drive karo store me. So it's not like getting them to buy paint, but I need people to go to that particular store only. So the big challenge we face is, one, how do we manage the cost, because the mediums are very less. The opportunities to reach out to a person who's staying next door is very, very less for me. I cannot go through by regular route. So that is one big challenge that we face. Second challenge that I've seen is the transparency in the measurement, right? How do I, so if, I mean, I used to reach out a lot of digital vendors. I don't want to name them, but they actually who specialize in localized targeting or localized marketing. The kind of outputs I would get from them, the metrics that they would tell me were very superficial. It will go nowhere close to what I was looking out from a business outcome. So that is second challenge. There are not many players right now who are very authentic or who actually can put their neck on the line and claim that we will deliver this kind of objective for you. I mean, that's a problem for the entire digital marketing industry, where there are not many vendors who actually do that, but more so in this field, who claim to be specialists in hyper-local marketing or localized marketing, but they're not able to deliver the kind of output that is required. So I speak to my counterparts in ABFRL, and they do a lot of all these campaigns to try, but the kind of information they gave me, it's so nascent. I mean, there's nothing that I can build from them. When expecting, yaar, tumne kya kiya batao, but there's nothing that comes out from them as well, because they're all stuck in the same boat that I am. The entire industry is probably stuck here. Who are the people who can solve this business problem for us? So this is the second challenge that I think, and I think largely my entire takeaway, it's very much a WIP thing right now. I mean, any market here, and for us in terms of fashion, where the average order value is probably 7 to 8,000 per unit, per order that is placed. To spend a lot of money to get people to a store is always looked upon or frowned upon, that how much are we spending to get people onto a particular store. So for me or for anyone, it depends. So for her, probably from an automotive side, it's a larger yield that she can make by spending money if she wants to drive people into a certain showroom, right? But for me to get people into a Malad store or my Palladium store, I need to think double cautious. I got to be extremely wary how much I'm going to spend. So that is the third challenge. So one is the measurement and transparency not being placed, the cost, and third, my spend allocation will always be very low in this field, the category that I'm right now. So yeah.
Rathin, and you were also talking about, when you were talking about challenges, you mentioned there are certain frauds also sometimes which happen. So if you can also bring into that.
So I think just to quickly reiterate, so I think first challenge is, what is the cost of acquisition? For that cost of acquisition, what's the value of the acquisition that you're making? And does that kind of justify the delta cost? And I think that's where the challenge is, where measurement, measurability, the quality of the customer comes on. Right? So that is, I think, one part. The second, I think, is to do with the category. So in certain cases, if you are looking at categories which are growing very rapidly, just super sharp targeting might actually be a limitation rather than a positive, right? And it might, and today there are lots of other measures, right? So you can identify cohorts based on so many other analytical parameters, and partner with e-commerce platforms, partner with Google, Facebook, all of these, to target those cohorts better, which might actually be more profitable than targeting a certain cohort in a certain location, right? So I think the category is the second part. The third, like I said, is there is again, it's to do with data measurement, because if you take even digital tools, the best digital tools, is it last cookie, is it first cookie, how you kind of calculating, there is a certain amount which is unaccounted for. Maybe that customer comes back after 28 days, are you taking a month, 2 months? So what's the sanctity of that measurement tool itself, right? Because basis that is how you're judging whether the ROI works or not. So I think these are some of the three things, which I think are like really, really big barriers.
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Very quickly, the challenge also is that if it is a trend that you have included in your, again, like I said, there are so many new tools coming in every now and then they fade away, then it's not going to help. Just like the community, when it comes to commercial business owners, so big business owners, right? When it comes to automobile, they want to keep a track of their vehicles. I mean, all of us know, right? Driver tel chori kar leta hai, kahin ruk gaya hai, so gaya hai. He's saying that the toll is blocked, but essentially maybe he's taken a detour, or etc., etc. So all of these are really huge problems in cost. When it comes to costing of businesses, big businesses, the profitability basically gets impacted. Now, if you start using these hyperlocal tools to give a better solution to your customer, not just acquire him or engage him, like I said, but also to give him a better solution, a better experience, like telematics. I don't know if a lot of us know here telematics, but Sir just mentioned that, some vehicles cannot drive above a speed. So what you'll realize is every car or a truck which goes into the city, they cannot drive above the speed limit of 80 kilometers per hour, right? So there is a speed limit. Just like that, there are a lot of different tools that you can introduce through this tool to give your final customer. This really helps. So today, my fleet owner, who probably has a fleet of 1,000 trucks, he's a really huge businessman, but on his fingertip, he can figure out how many of his trucks are running properly on a particular efficiency, which driver was stalling, where can he make those amendments, is there a particular route which is giving him a larger costing or saving the cost, etc. And then those business insights can be replugged into the way you plan or process your various daily working. So I think that also, again, we need to keep relooking and not just use it as a fake trend. We all know, right? Trends will, a fad, it's a fad, it will go away. But if we really want to use it, I think we should look at how can we improve the final customer experience and not just complete our KRA. I don't know if it's that's very preachy maybe.
Well, that's a wonderful point you've made. I'll move to the next question. So we are in the digital age, of course, and I want to talk about how does this hyperlocal marketing enhance the functionality of mobile apps and services, and what is the potential for providing these location-specific information, offers and services through mobile apps that we do to improve the experience. So any one of you wants to take it up first?
So I think when you do app marketing, right? I think for them, especially in the field of e-commerce, and if you've got an app, then it works wonders for them. If I know what my audience is buying and where does he stay, because they probably have the tools. So one is the privacy part. So once the privacy is sorted, because mostly apps, they always have, when you download the app, they always ask permission from the consumer, they seek permission from the user, that whether they can allow photographs to be taken, they can allow photos to be uploaded, consent agreement, and all those things is done. So privacy is sorted. But how does it help users as well, is right, when they get personalized information? Especially when I'm download an app, I would want the app to probably interact with me more and not just treat me as one of the users. So personalization is a very important metric when it comes to managing apps for a consumer in hyperlocal marketing, because if I'm buying something from, we were just discussing on Zepto and Zomato and all the examples, that if I buy from Zepto and if I'm buying something frequently, I would want the app to reach out to me through notifications and tell me it's time for, hey Sugo, it's time for your next whatever ice cream or salad or whatever that you keep buying. I've seen that from personal experience, that has helped me actually probably buy more from them, which might not be the most smartest thing at times, but yes, from a business owner, from app management, from marketing standpoint, it definitely works if there's more conversation, more notification to the consumer, and that normally happens through understanding the consumer needs in a certain area. So many times, so probably if I'm going to Chennai, the needs will be different there. A person staying in Chennai, a person staying in Mumbai, the buying patterns are totally different. But in terms of understanding what each and every pin code user on a certain pin code knows or is using my app, and the communication being back and forth, that helps the consumer and that helps the brand as well to drive business on the app.
Yeah. You want to add anything, Mr. Rathin?
So very briefly, I think again it's to do with the category. Something like this works very well if you're a high frequency category, right, versus a low frequency category like an insurance or something. So if you take something like, let's say, dining, right, now within a certain, you would have a same bunch of users. They all may be, buying for, let's say, 5,000 rupees a month on dining. But within that, their behavior could be very, very different. There could be some people who maybe are young and single and maybe ordering in on weekdays and they're coming in late. Or when there's a match and they're getting their friends over. Versus, in my case, because I'm a family, I largely order in only if it's a weekend and then it's like a treat for the family. So the purchase behavior might be the same, the transaction amount would be the same, but the behavior would be very, very different. And this is one of the dynamics. The type of food that you order, the restaurants that you order from, the pricing that you order. So I think, again, to make this work, the core is analytics. Once you have the analytics done on a bunch of parameters, then you'll be able to segregate, into different cohorts and figure out which cohort responds to what. And then you can run, test and kind of perform measures. But I think that's where the opportunity is. I think that, there are lots of people doing lots of stuff. But I think, I would say we are still like a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, because nobody is really still giving a wow experience. Your dining apps during World Cup are saying, World Cup offer. But this is basically a standard offer and you have to choose and figure out, what you should order versus them looking at your history and saying, these are your top 3 or 4 recommendations.
I think we are running short on time. I'll just take the last question. So I just want to talk about data privacy, which is a major concern these days. So how do we address that and how do we ensure that, while we are carrying out location-based marketing, how do you ensure data safety of customers?
I give the mic to the other people to answer that more technically, but I think it's a very, very transparent exchange that if you need something, they take a tick from you. And all of us say, I agree, or enter through my Google account, but none of us have really read all the points from the Google account, right? Facebook is sitting in one really big courtroom one day, and tomorrow you don't know what's happened, the news is faded. So honestly, it's up to you how much you want to use it. I know a lot of people use Apple phones, or they do not switch on their locations and Wi-Fi. But at the end of the day, how are you utilizing it? For example, a lot of us would go to expos. So I would just come to that privacy is a big concern. We have already, and I don't know how many of you have seen the movie I, Robot. Has anybody seen I, Robot? Really? Only a couple of people. Not. Marketers are very big movie enthusiasts. I see very dull energy. I don't know. The lunch was pretty heavy and nice. So basically, you see in iRobot, this really cool robot, etc. Right? Just please Google. Last month, we have already, a couple of countries have already introduced robots which almost look like that very nice-looking bald robot lady which was there, right? So privacy is going to be a concern. How do you manage it is really up to you. And in fact, on a lighter note, sir, with these specs in the second row, do you live with your parents by any chance? So when you go home, your mother will probably know what you visited just now on Google, on some notifications. So there is a concern, right? People will know where you've gone. So that's an exchange of things that we do that we'll have to figure out. But for marketers, how you can use these things is if you go to expos and big, these places where different brands are coming out, there are devices like beacons. If you use a beacon device, you can push in your material, informative material, which the customer who's there is a captive audience. He's come to the expo to experience your product. So he'll be open to receiving that information. But how do you give them a hard copy? We were just talking about, visiting cards and how people take visiting cards, but how often do we store them very safely? So beacon can be used there. That location-based targeting can be used there to push your data. In a place where I'm new, I don't have people, I want to bring in more competition customer, I can use that device to target the competition customer who's walking into the showroom and bring him back to this thing, or at least get into his consideration set, get into his head that that's not the only one, I'm there too, right? So it will depend on various phases. Data privacy is going to be an issue. I think there are bigger people who are sitting to solve that issue, honestly. But if anybody of one of you would like to add, please.
So I've been in the financial services industry. I've also, interacted with a bunch of startups. So my one line on this is that, actually I don't think there's any data privacy. The moment on all your apps you give out permissions, there is somebody who's capturing a lot of data. So today, if you look, there is a lot of lending which is happening by, a bunch of these digital players and digital apps, right? The kind of data, and I've seen the kind of data that they're able to source, is your history, your income, your expenditure, and because you're also giving social data, is also the data of your friends. And, using that to form your cohort and figuring out that out of 10 friends, are 2 of them defaulters or not? And therefore, are you a riskier cohort versus somebody else who none of his friends are defaulters? So I think your data is out there. Now, I think that's one. What responsible organizations do is take the necessary permissions and are still, I think, operating well below the limits in terms of using the data. But the fact is your data is there everywhere, right? Third, I think because we are still a young nation, average, median age 28, 29, we are quite cool with giving out the data so far, right? So I think compared to European countries and other countries, we still haven't got into that level of seriousness as to what can happen if our data kind of, gets exposed. So these are my 3 points, but the one thing is, anything and everything that you've put on your phone is not with you anymore, is out there.
Absolutely.
Apologies, we're really...
sorry, yes. There are laws, I'm sorry. There are laws which prohibit you to have any data. As an international marketing business person, I am not allowed to have a single username and mobile phone number on my laptop. So all of the data that you do generate is going to stay within the country, but yes, within the country is open for you.
You know, Aditi, when we ask about data privacy, since it's such an integral topic, you know, I'm sure a lot of them have so much to say, but unfortunately we have exceeded more than 5 minutes over time. Absolutely. And we would have to cut it now because our next set of leaders are also waiting. So with that being said, since this panel discussion was all about hyperlocal and geofencing, why don't we have Nabajit Nath from Bliss, which is a ad tech platform which specializes in geofencing and location-based targeting, to kindly join us and help us with the felicitation. So ladies and gentlemen, may we request our panelists to please step forward. Let's give them a big, big round of applause. A great, great session. And can we have the mementos